What's going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Clippers once again suffered another loss, and they are spiraling downhill fast. They are 0-4 since the acquisition of Russell Westbrook. They are currently sitting in the 7th seed in a play-in spot and are 33-32 on a 4-game losing streak. They are only 2 games out of being completely out of the playoffs. And the Lakers, if they win today, they could be right back there. I mean, the Clippers, if things go wrong today, the Clippers could be on the outside looking in, right? Literally. That's going to be very interesting given their roster, their amount of talent. They play the Sacramento Kings at home in Sacramento. That's going to be a tough game for them. I mean, we just saw the crazy, 175-176 game. So is this kind of like the revenge game for the Clippers? But if they lose this game, they're in some serious trouble, right? Because then they're at 500 at 33-33. And again, if everything goes wrong for them, and some of these teams, because you got the Pelicans, you got the Jazz, you got the Timberwolves, they could be looking at like the 10th, maybe even the 11th seed by the time all is said and done. So they need to figure this out. And look, this team is just not playing well, right? Like they're just not. They can't score. A lot of the issues that they had are still issues. They made all of these trades and acquisitions at the trade deadline, but they were all kind of like redundant deals. And I even talked about it here. Like I even said when the deals got done, I made a video talking about it. And I was like, one, the deals look like they made for Russell Westbrook. Ultimately, they end up getting Russell Westbrook. And I said, and two, they just got a bunch of like the same guys. Like Eric Gordon, like how much did you need him when you had Powell and Mann and all these guys that kind of play the same role, right? And then you go get Bones Highland, which I didn't mind just because he's young and you got him so cheap. But even then, it was still like, okay, he's more of like a shooting guard than a point guard. Like they need a pass for, like Mike Conley would have been perfect for this team. Seriously, veteran, hard-nosed, doesn't turn the ball over, can play off the ball, play solid defense, has been Mr. Reliable, right? And I think that was the piece. That or go get Fred VanVleet. Those two, I think, would have made the Clippers just seamless. I really do. The problem is that they're just still really clunky. They still don't really seem to have their offense figured out. It's kind of just like, it's really predictable. They're not scoring a lot. They are really bad offensively, which is surprising given all of their talent. Paul George is taking insane, ridiculous, tough shots for no real rhyme or reason, it seems like. He's just making things so much harder on himself. And I don't know why. I really don't. I mean, he's been struggling bad lately. But a lot of it hasn't even been just his level of play. It's just been the shot selection he's taking. He's taking a lot of tough, contested fadeaways and like just difficult shots instead of just letting the game unfold. I really liked the Plumlee acquisition. I thought that was great. They solved their center position. They solved their center need. But this team they just can't seem to figure it out. Kawhi Leonard is still doing Kawhi Leonard things, but, he's an absolute black hole when he gets the ball. The ball stops when it's there, and they have a roster that you really need like a free-flowing, constant pass offense, right? Because you got all these shooters, you got all these sort of 3-and-D guys. Ball needs to keep moving, rather than just like isolation, kick out, right? Because unless these guys are shooting the lights out, which they haven't been, they've been shooting, 25% the last handful of games. Even against the Warriors, they shot 21%, 9 of 43. They're just shot chunking. And it's not working out for them. And they just got ran out the gym. I mean, they got a good old-fashioned behind the barn beaten is what they got. And their schedule doesn't get easier. They have like the 5th toughest schedule in the league. The whole Russell Westbrook thing, like it hasn't been terrible. He's been pretty solid for them. Like he hasn't been like great or elite or like superstar level, but he's been pretty decent. The Warriors game, he wasn't that good in. He kind of struggled a lot in that game, but so did everybody, right? I mean, everybody outside of Kawhi Leonard, everyone was just atrocious in that game. Russell Westbrook still turning the ball over as expected, right? He's still doing a lot of like the things that you would expect him to do, but still in general, most of the games that he's played, 3 out of the 4, he's actually been pretty good for them. He gave them 14, 7, and 10 against the Timberwolves and had 4 turnovers, but in 28 minutes, he gave it to them and was 2 of 3 from 3, knocking down 3. I mean, he's given them the production that he gave the Lakers, but it's been slightly more efficient, which is what you would think, right? Because the Clippers just have more just shooting and players that make more sense next to Russ, where LeBron kind of just, they kind of neutralize each other, right? But Russ, it's finding that time span for Russ. Like, I think Russ can help them, but you have to kind of pick your spots with Russ. Like, Russ can be very effective still, can really help a team, but it looks like teams want Russ to be this specific type of player that he just isn't anymore. But he's still good enough to, like, especially in the middle of the game, right? Like, put him and Plumlee with, like, 3 shooters and let Russ just go to work for, like, 8 minutes a game, 10 minutes a game. I'm not saying you can't play him 20 plus, but I'm saying, like, you need to kind of just, like, give him these moments, especially not late game, where if he does turn the ball over, it could be detrimental and completely ruin and destroy the game. If you want to start him, fine. Start him early. Get the flow of the offense. Do what you need to do. And then, like, midway through the second quarter, have it just be Russ with, like, your 3 best shooters. Whoever's hot that night, put those guys around Russ. Put Plumlee in the center. Let Kawhi and Paul George rest, and then just give Russ that last, 6 minutes or whatever, and let him just run rampant. And I do think that he could probably get you a lead if you're behind, or extend your lead, or at least keep you neutral while Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are out. And then, start third quarter with your other guys, let Russ get his rest, and then towards the end of the third quarter, again, take Paul George and Kawhi Leonard out, let them get some rest going into the fourth quarter, and let Russell Westbrook go do his thing. Again, give him another, 6-minute stretch or whatever, and then there you go. Now he's got, his 20 minutes or whatever, and there you go. He's happy. Don't close the game with him in the fourth. If you want to start him early on in the fourth, sure, just to get him to 22 so he doesn't get upset or whatever, and you don't ruin chemistry or whatever, cool, do that. But as far as the way that they are operating him, again, he hasn't been bad. Paul George has been terrible. I mean, even that Kings game, Paul George had 4 straight turnovers. And it was at that point, it was you might as well just give Russ the ball, right? Let Russ make Russ is making better decisions right now than Paul George was. That was just terrible. Russell Westbrook, he is who he is at this point. And it just seems like all these teams want him to be something different, and he's not. I do absolutely believe Russell Westbrook can make an impact on the Clippers or any team. They should have brought him off the bench and had him be the guy. But okay, if you want to start him, sure, start him. But you need to operate him in a very specific way. He's a guy that is a one-man fast break. You need to allow him to run the show. It was the same thing I was saying with the Lakers, right? You need to have him in spots where you can just let him go be Russell Westbrook. I believe if you just say, hey, Russ, I'm going to give you 10 minutes a game you can pick your 4 guys that you want out there with you that you think will be most effective with you, and just go to work. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get your 10 minutes a game. We're going to rest Paul George and Kawhi Leonard during that time. And you're going to get to run the show. It's going to be the Russell Westbrook show. I really think more times than not, you are going to get a lot of production from him in that time, because he's going to know, okay, I got 10 minutes to myself. Let me get to work, right? And I think he can get you 10 points in 10 minutes, get you a couple assists, get you several rebounds, and just it just gives the Clippers a different look. They're one of the slowest teams in the league as far as pace goes, which also is one of the reasons why they don't score that much. But you have a guy like Russ who they're hoping will change the pace of this team. Problem is that like Kawhi Leonard isn't sprinting back and forth on breaks. Like he hardly moves. He moves at a snail's pace, period. Right? Like they're not a team built to run. They're not a team that's built to do that. You do have guys that can. Put him and like Bones Highland and like all like your best 3-point. Get all of the guys that can shoot the lights out, that love to run. Get Plumlee, who's a floor running big, and just let Russ go to work. And I do think he can make an impact. You know, he's not going to be the superstar that's going to completely change the course of your franchise. It's not going to happen. He's just not. But I do think he is serviceable enough if you run him the right way. They need to figure it out. I mean, they have been terrible. Terrible. And Paul George is, in my opinion, is the number one reason. Paul George he's just not playing good basketball right now. He's forcing shots. He's taking tough shots for no real rhyme or reason. He's turning the ball over like a madman. It's like he's trying to compete with Russell Westbrook for turnovers. He's like, man, Russ can't beat me in turnovers. Like, come on. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And like, this is a team that, like, you look at this team on paper and you're just like, God, this team is ridiculous. But they just can't beat anybody right now. Nobody. And look, it kind of goes into what I've always said, they're a team that I just can't believe in until they prove otherwise. Every year, you look at the last like 10 years, dating back to Lob City, every year has been their year. Every year is supposed to be the year that they finally make it. This is their best shot, in my opinion. I mean, seriously. Like, if you look at the Clippers, if you did not know the records, anything, if I could just cover all the records, and you look at the Clippers roster and you look at the rosters of every other team, you'd be like, the Clippers are going to run through the West. Like, it wouldn't even be fair. Like, that's how good this roster is, how deep this roster is. I mean, they are legit like 12 to 14 guys deep. And, I mean, high quality role guys, like 3-and-D shooters. This team is like built to compete with that. But they just cannot put it together. Their stars, Paul George just doesn't seem to have it anymore. They're clunky. They brought in Russell Westbrook, which, I mean, everyone knew was going to happen, but it just was like, okay, like, is it really going to work? Like, I can't believe in this team until they prove otherwise. It's just every year, it's their year, and every year they're a first, second round exit, and that's that. They've been to one Western Conference Finals since this team got put together and got ran through in that. Right? Like I mean, the Clippers have underachieved more than any team I can think of. Seriously. Like, it's terrible. And I mean, Lob City, like they had several years where they were the best team in the league and just couldn't get it done. So anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think of the Clippers? Think they'll turn it around? Do you think that they're doomed? Do you think that, like, no, they are who they are? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear.